There is a moment in every life when you decide to rise, to stand taller than your fear, to speak louder than your doubt, to chase the vision that sets your soul on fire. This is that moment. And here, we walk it together with stories that awaken, voices that inspire, and truths that set you free. This is Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where hope has a voice, and that voice is yours. And welcome to the show, everybody. My name is Kevin, and Rochelle is right there. And we've got a terrific author and a wonderful lady with us today. And Rochelle's going to introduce you because she can. Rochelle, go ahead.
It is such an honor to have Lorie Kleiner Eckert here today with us. She has a website, which happens to be her name, LorieKleinerEckert.com. She's written many books. She has a blog. She also is into art. And we're going to talk about all those great things. So welcome, Lorie. How are you?
I am just fine. I'm delighted to be with you today. Thank you. Let's put out positive messages.
Yes,
absolutely. And I have to say that the books that you've written, and we talked about this in the pre-show a little bit, the books that you have written, and they've all been kind of autobiographical about snippets of your life. Am I close?
Oh, you're very close. I say that I tell the stories of my life, hoping that other people can glean life lessons from them. And I've done this in the 5 books I've written, but beyond that, I started off. So I think I'm in the motivation field also. And my message is life is difficult, but you can do it. But when I was a motivational speaker for a decade, I illustrated my talk with my artwork, as Rochelle mentioned. I make quilts with words and symbols pieced into the design. And so as I told the story of the quilt, the story of my life, a slice of life story, I hope that you could gather, that it would resonate for you. So for instance, may I tell you about one of the quilts that always got a good laugh? One of the quilts says, if not now, when? And it's about, making most of your life right now, but also that nobody's guaranteed tomorrow. So you have to make the most of today. So this story happened when my kids were little and we had been out running errands, and we stopped on the way home at the drugstore, and each of the kids got candy. And the 2 bigger kids, who were 5 and 7 years older than the little one, got M&Ms, and Lisa, the little one, got Skittles. When we got home, she wanted to share with them, and they would have no part of that. So as they ran off upstairs, she shouted out after them, "Well, if you won't share your M&Ms, I won't scare my shittles." So she got her words a little bit backwards, but I went over and clapped her on the back, and I said, "Way to go, kid. Of course you are willing to share with your brother and sister, but if they're not sharing with you, you have to take care of yourself." So when I did the motivational speaking, I would show a dozen quilts and tell their stories. And it wasn't a canned speech, yet I knew what got a laugh. I knew how to tell the story. And everyone loved that story because, especially for people in this world, they're givers and there are takers. For the givers, someone has to remind us that we get to take care of ourselves. So everything is autobiographical. Yeah. So, but you see, a story of my children when they were little isn't exactly confessing to flunking college or anything. It's just these stories are everywhere. I didn't flunk college. I was an all-A student. Anyway.
Well, you know what? I have to ask you, because as I understand it, when you make a quilt, that you're going from row to row to row, and it builds on itself and becomes a quilt, right? How do you know where to put the words, and that you're going across, and then you're changing the color, and then do you have it all in your mind of how that's all going to play out?
I think a little bit maybe you're thinking about knitting. It sounds more than what I'm thinking about. So with making a quilt, you're working with usually squares and triangles and rectangles, rectangles as my little kids would call them. And I designed all of my quilts on graph paper. And so it was everything is very much a grid. The letters on my quilts are real big clunky things because they had to be seen across the room when they were used as visual aids in lectures. So my letters are 5 inches tall and 3 inches wide, but they're all plotted into the quilt. It's all graphed out in advance. And the fun thing, so I have an Etsy shop as well, and among other things, I sell quilt coloring pages, because once you design this grid on paper, you can color it 100 different ways and it's going to look entirely different. Are you going to have dark colored letters on a bright background, or the reverse? There's just a million things you can do. So when my kids were little and I was designing quilts on graph paper, I'd go to the library, because who owned a Xerox machine in those days, and make many copies of my graph paper, and then bring it home. And all the kids, the 3 kids, colored them how they thought it should be colored. And we taped those up around the kitchen and looked at them. And often I went with the best one, because sometimes they designed better than I did. But no, it's all Kevin. It is all blocked out in advance. And I would make the words first. Lisa, my little one, once had a splinter in her finger, and she came to show it to me in the early morning. It wasn't very light out, and I couldn't see it, and I couldn't see it. And I don't know if she said it to me or I said it to her. I said, "Come into the light," which is such an amazing philosophical idea. Immediately my brain went, "Oh, come into the light." 8 letters and 8 letters if I did it top and bottom. And that became a quilt exactly like that. Mm-hmm. So it all got designed in advance. Yeah.
Kevin, do you want to make a quilt?
No, I don't have the skills to do that. But I would like to say that because one of the things that we are embarking on that Rochelle is going to be doing is we've got a store, and we're going to be making T-shirts with sayings on them and attributing them to the author of those sayings. What was your favorite saying that went on one of your quilts, and why?
Oh, that's a really good question. Actually, it is I've told you a little bit about it already, and it is a story in High on Life, my newest book, and it is that quote that I started with, "If not now, when?" So that's actually part of it's a 3-part quote by a famous rabbi named Hillel. And it's the Jewish version of the Golden Rule. It says, "If I am not for myself, who will be for me? If I am for myself alone, what am I? And if not now, when?" So it reminds us to take care of the other guy and to take care of ourselves as well, and to do it now. And I actually have struggled with that quote through the years because of the time urgency in that "if not now, when?" And when can you rest and everything like that. And the older I get, the more I'm thinking that the important clause is the "if not now, when?" And it's the time. If not now, when are you going to slow down, smell the roses? I'm 73, so if not now, when? Well, but that would be my favorite, would be the full quote from Hillel. And it's been a part of my life. I've lived by that golden rule for a very long time.
Yeah. And it makes so much sense, especially I heard a quote yesterday that said, ready is a decision, not a feeling. And that kind of stayed with me, because if not now, then when? You're not ready out based off of when you feel like it. You're ready when you decide so.
I agree. Yeah. Because that really goes to, so I have 3 adult children and I've got 10 grandkids. That really goes to the decision to have children. You would never really make that as a logical decision. That's a ridiculous decision to make. You know, so, but you have to be ready and go for it.
Well, I imagine Thanksgiving at your house is pretty loud.
At this stage, I am not the Thanksgiving person anymore. I get the Jewish holidays. I get Rosh Hashanah and I get Passover. And my daughter Shayna gets Thanksgiving. And my daughter Lisa gets Hanukkah. And we also do Christian holidays because Lisa's husband is not Jewish. And so we do Easter, whereas my son-in-law's parents do the Jewish holidays with us. We do Easter and Christmas with them. So, and they're all, rowdy. They're rowdy. But it's actually quieting down. I have 1 in college, 4 in high school, 4 in junior high, and only 1 little guy left. So they're all kind of giggling in bedrooms away from the parents.
Well, you know, on my quilt of life, it says the day ain't over yet, so you may have more.
Yeah,
It's true.
Hold on, it's coming.
You know, but it's really great. And the 5 books that you've written, you do them with the intention of creating positivity in everyone's life and telling great stories about what they can do, and if not now, when, is a great example of don't put off till tomorrow what you can do today, because there may not be a tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, on the quilt, it is shaped like an hourglass. So it kind of goes, you know, has a thin waist in the middle and so forth. And and there's a star in the center of the quilt that was my grandmother, and we all descended from her and have a little bit of her spark. So there's parts of the star that repeat in there. Oh goodness, that train of thought just went to Florida or someplace. I don't know where. What was I going to tell you about that? I don't know. So in the quilt, the reason that it was shaped like an hourglass is I made it at the end of my grandmother's life, and it was apparent that the time was running out. And I have some hourglasses on the quilt on their sides, but the whole quilt is an hourglass because you can't make time stand still. So you have to, you know, make the most of today. Yeah. And I have to tell you that when I made that quilt, the first series of quilts of my first book is called With This Ring I Journey, and it's illustrated with 12 quilts with words, and it's the journey towards self-acceptance and love. And when I made that book, I was newly divorced, and I felt so odd. All of my friends were going by twosies onto the ark, and here I am by myself. And so many of the quilts in that book are oddly shaped. They're not squares or rectangles like this one that's shaped like an hourglass. And I don't remember exactly how many edges you have to turn on an hourglass, but at least 10. Instead of on a quilt, you turn 4 corners, and putting a binding on a quilt is a challenge. And so I had all of these corners to turn. So after I made that quilt, it said, "Are you done feeling odd? Because I'm kind of sick of making these odd-shaped quilts." And so it's funny how, you know, how you make decisions in life. And so I decided to stop feeling so odd because I didn't want to make odd-shaped quilts anymore. Isn't that great?
You know, the interesting thing that's going on in these days is it used to be where being a couple was the big deal, that you needed to be, you know, you weren't complete unless you had a mate. And that's changing a little bit because people are discovering that before they can really have a good relationship with somebody, you have to have a good relationship with yourself. And it's not dependent upon another individual. And do you agree with that?
Oh, I do. So when I was making these first 12 quilts, so I'll start at the end on this. So I made 12 quilts with words pieced into the design, And one morning I woke up and a slightly more poetic version of the quilts was running through my head. So I got up and wrote down those words. And it turned out those were vows you might make to yourself as you start a new portion of your life. And the vows address exactly what you're saying. They start off saying, I love you is the sequel. With acceptance and love of the self, the story that must come first. And toward the lofty goal of love, self-love, I make these vows to myself. And then I made the vows in the words on the quilts: bloom, soar, come as you are, you're lovely, if not now, when. All of those things. Yeah. So, I definitely agree. You have to be a whole person. Two people don't come together to be one. That's a subtraction problem. No. Two of us are stronger together.
And I love that, because you're talking about when. I have to know after this break when this all started for you to write that first book. And I love it because you started with self-love and then developed all these other books that could be a catalyst for somebody in their life that's maybe around my age and going through that same, point in time of figuring out who you are and why you are and how that all works together. So everybody go to her website, which is Lorie Kleiner Eckert.com. And we'll be right back to talk about where the journey began with all these books, because we've got a lot to talk about.
And we'll be right back. And I just wanted to mention this. If you are somebody like Brachelle, who is in her mid to late 20s, you're not done with learning all the things that you've put into the 5 books, because she's in the middle of it and you wrote them as you were going. And now you're kind of on the other side of it and you can look back on it. We'll talk about all that when we come back from this quick commercial. Here's another point to ponder from Positive Talk Radio. What is the easiest thing to justify? It is a small transgression, the one no one will ever see, no one will ever know. The tiny exaggeration on the expense report, the extra minute you took on your lunch break, the packaging you tossed in the wrong recycle bin because it was closer. In those moments, the question isn't, will I get caught? The question is, will I know? It isn't about avoiding punishment. It's a silent agreement you make with yourself when you choose to do the right thing, to return the wallet, to fix the mistake, to respect the empty space. You aren't impressing the world. You're earning your own respect. That small choice, made entirely in private, is how you build a life you never have to look away from. The only audience that matters is you. And welcome back to Positive Talk. My name is Kevin McDonald, and Brachelle is right there. That's her. That's the one. That's the one and only. We tried to find, by the way, Lorie, we tried to find another Brachelle, and we only found one in the entire world that we know of. So that's why she just goes by that one name that she's been. Yeah, so she's very, very, very special. Did I say that? Very special. So, but Brachelle, go ahead.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, my brain went like 100 different directions, but as I asked before, Lorie, about trying to find, realizing maybe in the beginning of where your journey started, that it started with you. How did that all come into play? When did it?
Yeah, my whole career has kind of happened accidentally by taking the next step. Yeah. So I got divorced and I was a full-time mom. So I now need to support myself. So I'm going to turn my hobby of quilt making into a paid profession. And I'm going to go on the quilt lecture circuit, because there are quilt shows and quilt guilds and quilt seminars all over the country all the time. I didn't know it. There is not a quilt lecture circuit. I didn't know that. But that was the goal. So I am a very good quilt technician, meaning that if I'm making stars, I don't lop off any of the points accidentally. If my fabric has Christmas trees in it, they all stand upright. None of them, take a nap. So I'm a very good quilt technician, but I don't think I'm necessarily a great quilt artist. So I wanted to do something that I didn't have to compete with all of the quilt artists artist, and I made quilts with words pieced into design. So that was going to be my shtick. And I figured I needed a dozen quilts to take my show on the road. And I was going to make one quilt every 2 weeks, which is a stiff goal, but they're wall hangings. Again, method to my madness. I'm 5'7", but basically scrawny, so I wouldn't have been able to schlep a dozen bed-sized quilts with me around the country, is what I was visualizing. And anyway, so I made wall hangings, and I made whatever came to mind. Change is, come as you are, you're lovely, bloom. Whatever came to mind, I made that quilt. I didn't have a rhyme or reason. And then, as I already said, I woke up one morning and all of the quilts fell into place to this one series of vows that you would make to yourself as you were starting a new journey in life. And by the way, I had just inherited a ring from my grandfather. So that was the ring that I got, and I wanted to make vows to myself. So my subconscious mind took over. So at that point, though, again, there was not a quilt lecture circuit, which I thought there might be. And anyway, quilt guilds could pay this was in the 1990s, they could pay like $75 for a program. I wanted more than that. So instead of calling myself a quilt lecturer, I really wanted to call myself an inspirational speaker, but that smacked of religion. So I called myself a motivational speaker, illustrating my talk with my fiber artwork, which some people thought they were going to see arrangements of fruits and vegetables, dietary fiber. It was crazy. Anyway, and I approached every kind of group from PTAs to Procter & Gamble and spoke to all of them. And so I spoke to, I think 220 audiences in 11 states over 10 years. And so after it's really hard. It's cold sales to line up a speaking engagement. And then, oh my God, for the most part, they love me, thank goodness. They wanted me to come back, but I only had one lecture. So I made a second series of quilts. That one didn't fall together quite as easily, but it was the story of having the courage to say yes to life. And those stories, instead of the first book, just had like a poem that accompanied the pretty pictures. This one was on the theme, a picture and 1,000 words. A picture is worth 1,000 words. So I had the quilt and I wrote an essay that was 1,000 words to go with it. And it was in writing that, my second book, that I realized I liked to write. So then I started writing. So you see how one thing led to another. I really didn't have a master plan, just keep taking steps. And that has worked very well for me. And, sometimes you take missteps, sometimes you take side steps. That's okay. If you take enough steps, you will move forward. So, so that is where I started on it. And then with the, when I wanted to write, I don't know if either of you are writers, but it's really a heck of a problem getting published. And it was even more of a problem back in the 90s and early 2000s. And so I wrote a slice of life column about being single in midlife. So it wasn't giggly dating or anything like that, but it was always, my message is always, life is difficult, you can do it. So it was like, I know you don't want to be single, but you can do it. Okay, you want to garden, you live in an apartment, let's talk about container gardening. Okay, it's hard to cook for just one, but here's some strategies from the chef that I talked to. So so I started writing, and then, oh my gosh, I won a couple of journalism awards. So then you can boast of yourself and get your stories. And I self-syndicated my stories to about 24 small newspapers across the US and in Canada. It was very exciting. And, every Friday I sent one of my, they were called columns at the time. Now they're called blogs, but same difference. Sent columns. And this was the early days of email. So It was crazy what you could find online, how you could get to the head honcho and write him an email. It was crazy. So that did get my foot in the door. So then my third book is a compilation of the first year's worth of columns that I wrote on being single. And people love to buy this book. There are only like 9 more in existence, except on secondary markets, because of the title. It's called I Need a Man's Pants to Wash. Is that a title for a And the story behind that is my grandma, my Bubby, the one I was trying to keep alive. When she was newly widowed, I said to her, Bubby, don't you want to get married again? And she said, I need a man's pants to wash. So she said it with great disdain. Here I am divorced, and I didn't really know if I felt that way or if I felt I want a man's pants to wash. So I didn't know how to punctuate that. So that became the title of the book. And I wrote about crazy dating stuff, again, not giggly kinds of stuff, but
real
equal and opposite prejudices as a Jewish girl dating a Catholic man or whatever, equal but opposite prejudices. So anyway, so again, Kevin, I'm writing all the stories of my life. It's all biographical, but hopefully people identify with it. And that's what's been the case, or at least that's what people tell me. People who like my work, that's what they tell
Well,
me.
and the work that you're doing, it's very inspiring and it's very good. As a matter of fact, I need to write a book now that says I don't need anybody to wash my pants.
Yes.
You're good. And you can give laundry.
For a man to even do his own laundry is quite the thing, I've heard.
Well, one of the stories in my first book says, make your own luck. So if in case I forget, this has to do with things I find in the morning when I'm out on my morning walk. So remind me if I forget. But one of the quilts in the first book says, make your own luck. And I was out for my morning walk, and I was feeling lousy that morning. And I thought, I need to find a penny for good luck. Well, I lived in an apartment at the time. I was separated, not divorced yet. And so I thought, well, look, there's all these fast food restaurants that aren't open yet. I'll walk up and down all the drive-through windows. Maybe there'll be a penny on the ground. So I did that, and I found, I can't remember the configuration at the time, a quarter, some number of dimes, nickels, and pennies that added up to 52 cents, which is the year I was born, 52. So it's like, okay, so I walked home not wanting to find any more money. But I had to cross the street, and I looked down before stepping in the curb, and there was a penny. So I actually found 53 cents that day. So the quilt is oddly shaped, and it has all these stars representing quarter, nickel, dimes, and pennies. And from the bottom of the quilt, the extra penny dangles. So, okay. So this is a story about what I found when I was out on my morning walk. So one day when I was piling all these books into a story in the neighborhood, I found a pair of men's boxer shorts in the curb. Gross and filthy and rainy and wet. And I carried it home like a rat by the tail and put it through the wash 800 times. And that was part of the inspiration for I Need a Man's Pants to Wash. Kevin, you're looking a little green.
Yeah, so let me get this
straight. 800 times. It was clean.
Yeah, but I was thinking about getting it to the washer the first time.
I'm telling you, I held it by the waistband up here, and I carried it at arm's length.
Did you ever stop to think how that pair of underwear ended up in the gutter where it was?
No.
That would have been
myself go there. Thank you.
Yeah.
Somebody got broken up with and throwing his clothes out the window while she's driving down the street.
Well, I have to tell you, though, one of the stories in the I Need a Man's Pants to Wash is about going on a date. I'm going to meet this guy for the first time at a nice restaurant near my house. And as I pull up, I see some man standing outside of his car, changing his clothes, taking one shirt off and putting another shirt on. And I'm thinking, I sure hope that's not my date. And it was my date, changing his clothes in the street. So I don't know how clothed underpants, boxer shorts get in the street, but that man might have had something to do with it.
Well, see, what I was worried about is that he soiled his underpants, and so he got rid of them on the street and kind of stuff.
Yes, I get it. Yes.
Yeah,
I think there would have been a familiar smell, so maybe they wouldn't have been picked up at that time. But hey, it's so inspiring, Lorie, because if he is a man changing his clothes in his car, it may tell you that he is prepared. Right?
I'm prepared.
He's a backup man.
That wasn't where I went with it.
I can only imagine. We'll have to read the book to find out.
Exactly. And by the way, we're talking with Lorie Kleiner Eckert, and we need to take a break. And for our halftime, because it's football season, so we call it our halftime break. But and we will be right back. And then I'm going to throw out to Rochelle, and she's going to ask the initial question. So think of one good one, Rochelle.
Okay.
And we'll be right back.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
Are you looking for your daily dose of inspiration? Stay connected to all your favorite shows, music, and news with the Brushwood Media Network app. From Positive Talk Radio to Greatest Vibes Unplugged and so many more uplifting voices around the world, everything you need is right in one place. It's easy to use, too. Always available and designed to keep you inspired 24 hours a day. Go to brushwoodmedianetwork.com and download the app, and you will always have Brushwood Media available on your smartphone. Download it now and make inspiration and music and conversation part of your everyday. And welcome back to Positive Talk. My name is Kevin McDonald, and Michelle is right there, and Michelle has got an amazing question she's going to ask you now, Lorie.
Yes, well, I thought, if there's something that our audience would ask that could be a pinpoint for maybe a lot of us, I'm curious, is there a time that an opportunity came forward to you, and for whatever reason you turned it down, you said no, or you decided to take a different path, and it came back, and then you said yes?
I don't think so. I think if it's offered to me, I usually take it.
You said, okay, yep, following the bread.
Assume that there's some reason I'm supposed to be doing this. And I, like breaking up with somebody. If you've broken up with them, there's really no need to go back, You can't put the toothpaste back into the container after you squeeze it out. So, no, I think I take it. When I've faltered, once I was offered the presidency of a women's organization, and I hemmed and hawed, and my father was alive at the time. When you read High on Life, you will see how much I love my father. But he said to me, grab it, grab it. Just don't let it go. Yeah. So I grabbed it, and it was wonderful. It brought me lots of friends, a connection. When you do volunteer work, you really win because you make a lot of connections, and then you belong, which is something that not a lot of people feel, a sense of belonging and community and camaraderie. So yeah, I kind of go for it. I think.
Yeah. Well, then I'm going to shift my perspective on my question, but also you just casually brought up the women's group that you just became in charge of. I want to know how that all came into play. But in the opposite sense, then, following each of those trails and where they led you and being able to say yes, there's a lot of people that they don't have that in them, right? There's the fear, and there's the what ifs, and there all these things. So where does that come from in you that keeps you able to trust in the unknown.
Yeah, I think that I've been very lucky in life. And so I just kind of hope it's going to keep up. I had really, great supportive parents. Not that I really understood that at the time. Again, you'll read in High on Life the struggles I had with my mom, but I come to find out all these years later, couldn't have had a better mom. So I think I just come from, I'm very fortunate to have a really rock solid beginning. And so I guess I have confidence in myself. I guess at this point, I have to at least give myself credit for the things that I've done, lining up, over 200 speaking engagements, making cold calls, that takes some
It's a lot
doing.
of work. Yeah.
It's a lot. And in High on Life, there's a story on how to do these kinds of things, one step at a time. But yeah, I think I think I had a rock solid start, and I recognize that not everybody has, but then you have to work to give yourself a rock bottom right now, which means, in my mind, you have a healthy routine, you eat well, you exercise, you watch your sleep hygiene, you watch your money, and all that kind of stuff. You make yourself rock bottom. If you're in debt, you go to a debt counselor and you work your way out, and you build a very firm foundation on which you can stand. So I've been lucky, I've always had a very firm foundation, and but that's, I think, what you need. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Well, that's a strong message to parents too. What could be created out of somebody that you're able to provide that foundation for once you find it for yourself is massive. So, Kevin, you look like you have a question.
I was just gonna make a statement, and that is, Lorie, you said you got lucky. Baloney. You created your own luck because you wanted to be a speaker, and rather than saying, I'm going to talk to the universe and I'm going to say,
Yeah.
I'm going to be a speaker and all these people are going to come. No. You went and you contacted 200 organizations and you said that I can speak. And if somebody were to say, oh, that's lucky. No, that's just plain old-fashioned hard work and dedication to your passion, to your mission. So I'm not going to get away without just being lucky. You made your own dang luck.
I saw that coming. That's why I had to have him say that.
Well, thank you. Well, so in High on Life, I write a chapter on how to become successful. And I talk about, I give you a graph to go to, it's a chart to go to on some college website, so that if you started at, I can't remember exactly what I wrote, but it's in there, but if you start at age 20 and you put away $20 a week for life, and it has to be invested to make 6 or 8%, which means you're probably in a mutual fund. I say all of this kind of stuff, but if you do that consistently forever and you don't dip into it, then at age whatever, I think you have $500,000. So I quote the college.edu to go to look at that. So this is how you become, how you make your fortune. And then I quote my friend Mike Kahn, who is an author. We went to high school together. He's an author of like a dozen mysteries, all set in St. Louis, which is home for us. But Mike Kahn was a trial attorney with 5 children. And how did he write all those books? He wrote 1 page a night, every single night, 365 nights a year. And guess what? An average book is 365 pages. So every year he cranked out a book in the middle of being an attorney and a father. So, and then I use my own experience as a motivational speaker, of cold calling. You call and they shuffle you around and you say, okay, if you can't talk now, when may I call you back? I don't want to be a pest. When may I call you back? And they say Tuesday at 2. And guess what? you need to call Tuesday at 2, not Tuesday at 2:30. And people would tell me, I can set a clock by you because they keep putting you off, and you keep calling back till you get the sale. And then the next sale is a little bit easier because John Doe at such and so company told me to call you, and you go through the shtick again. So it's one little step at a time, staying on top of it, and anybody can accomplish things in life. So you want to learn to play the piano? Practice 10 minutes a day, every single day. Make sure you record the piece when you start practicing it, because a week later you won't really hear that it's different, but when you play the recording, you'll get it. You can do it, and slowly but surely the sheet music that you've mastered will pile up. That. So my parents said in Yiddish, a bissel and a bissel macht's a großen Schüssel. A little bit and a little bit makes a whole lot. So a großen Schüssel is like you're mixing up a pot full of something. But a little bit as a little bit adds up. Again, a great story, a great truth. It's in the book to remind you.
And it takes a great deal of patience and intestinal fortitude and all of those things to make that happen. Let me give you an example. I have a close relative. I know his mother well because we had him together. And he came to live with me because he wanted to buy a house. And I said, well, I'll tell you what. Why don't we live together and I'll pay all the bills and you save money, and then you can buy your house and then you can go on your way. And then I will have launched you properly, sir. And so one night we decided to go out for sushi. I don't like raw fish, but I assumed they'd have something there for me to eat that didn't taste like seaweed. And so we went to this place, and everybody said, "Oh, hi, Travis. I'm sorry, I said his name. Hi, John. How are you?" And everybody knew him by name because he and his girlfriend had a habit of going and spending $100 for sushi and sake, and they had just a wonderful time. And then a year later, I said, "Well, how much money have you saved?" He said, "Well, I've got $100 here, and we're going out to sushi." And so I'm like, okay, so So you made the conscious decision that even though I was giving you every opportunity to do what would be right for you over the long term, you chose to eat some disgusting raw fish. I'm sorry. That's me. I know Rochelle loves sushi, but
had it last night.
I like to eat tempura at the sushi restaurant.
Yeah.
There you go. That's me. That's me. You forgot to cook that. But anyway, but that is the thing. Those are the decisions that we all get to make in life.
Yes. And should he make the decision to give himself a rock solid base someday, he will make a different decision. But until he does, you can't do it for him.
That's up to him. It's his job. I don't have that job. And Lorie, I want to introduce somebody to you who started out in this very same way. He started out on the streets of where he grew up. He had no home. He had nothing. And over time, piece by piece, moment by moment, he's developed into something extraordinary. He makes Rochelle cry every time he posts something. And that is Samuel from Kenya. And would you read his post, Rochelle?
Hi, Samuel. He says, hello, Brother Kevin, Sister Rochelle, and guest Lorie Kleiner. Receive greetings from Kaiberia Restoring Hope Center. We are listening and watching you live. This is our favorite program, Positive Talk Radio. Thanks, Team Positive Talk Show, for being an ambassador and highlighting our weekly feeding program, No Child Goes to Bed Hungry to the World. Together we are strong. And Samuel knows, he understands. So, it's like, I just had this vision of when you follow the little breadcrumbs and those little things add up. It's the same thing in whatever you're doing to a point of success, but with each other, right? Like if you're doing something with someone else, the impact of it can be so much greater. Because if there weren't people on this earth to be reading your book, Lorie, then what would your learning be able to teach? And I'm just, it's really inspiring the way that you're able to move through life and see people and understand things and be so open and willing to new opportunities of growth. I think that we all deserve that, whether we know it or not. But you have to give yourself the chance, or you're not going to see it that way.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, since you posted that I was going to be a guest on the show, Samuel liked it on Facebook. So I saw his name already. So I would much appreciated that.
Oh, and Lorie, I have to tell you that he just had a graduating class, and he had tell us about the picture that made you cry, Rochelle.
Well, it was a video of them all doing the same dance, just big smiles. It was like their eyes had been opened again for the first time, and they saw themselves in such a different light of knowing what they could accomplish if they put in the dedication to themselves, but doing it together as a whole. And it doesn't matter what age you are. If you decide that you want to be different and you want your life to have an impact differently than it has before, it can happen when you're young, it can happen when you're older, but you get that choice. And seeing those kids realize they had a choice in doing something great when they had maybe not known that before was the meaning of life.
And Lorie, we need to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want to ask you this. High on Life is the new book that's just out. And I just want you to explain to everybody the thought process that you did for this book and the impact that you and this book are going to have on generations, not just a few, but generations of people. People are going to pick up the book off of a coffee table. What's this? Oh, I think I'll read that. Or it's going to be a used bookstore, or it's going to be a library, and you're going to change someone's life. I want to ask how you feel about that when we come back. The Fire That Doesn't Die by Positive Talk Radio. Success never shows up overnight. It tests you. It breaks you. It asks, how much do you want it and how badly do you believe? Amazon answered that question for 9 long years with no profits, only vision. At Positive Talk Radio, our fight began in 2003. Self-funded, no spotlight, no guarantees, only faith that hope and love can change lives. For over 2 decades now, we've kept showing up, keep speaking light into the darkness. And now, hey, we're still here, stronger, louder, inspiring hearts across the world. Because true greatness isn't measured by how fast you rise, but by how long you refuse to fall. And welcome back. Lorie Kleiner Eckert is our guest today, and I hope I got that even close to being correct. Did I get that okay?
Perfect. You are perfect.
Not according to my ex-wife, but that's a story for another time. We won't talk about it. But I wanted to ask you, because the works that you've done, the 5 books, the blog that you do, which is actually, it's kind of like, remember Dear Abby?
Yep.
Dear Abby wrote a column, and that's what they used to call it. If you were on a newspaper, you would have you were a syndicated columnist, and stuff. But have you thought about your legacy and the things that you are going to be contributing to generations of people going forward? Does that humble you?
I don't know. I've got a lot of really talented grandkids, so I think they got many of them are writers, because my grandma's name is Marmal, because if Marmal can do it, anybody can do it, which is great that they have that attitude. But when I was working on High on Life, It's hard to get published, and so I was very grateful to have found Bruce Bortz at Bancroft Press, and who believes in the book so much. But I always thought, if it doesn't get published, and it's easier to feel this way with a fifth book than if it had been my first book. But if I didn't find a publisher, it was like, I'm just going to self-publish it and make a copy for each of the kids. So I was really doing it for my grandkids. And the working title was my granddaughter, my oldest grandchild is Tilly. So the working title was To Tilly et al., so it was to the gang. And so that was where I wanted to make my impact. But I have seen that people respond to what I wrote. So once this lady from Kentucky Education Association came to hear me do a program to see if she wanted me to come to her group. And she sat there like a stone, didn't smile, didn't laugh, didn't anything. And I thought, oh, she hated my program. And I called her the next day and I said, you didn't like it? She said, oh my God, every word from your mouth broke my heart, touched me. I couldn't move or I would have been sobbing. It would have been a puddle on the ground. So people either hate what I do because my heart's on my sleeve too much, or they really respond. And with my first book, I was at, you do many things that are just terrible for your ego as an author. So I was at I don't even remember, maybe Walden Books or something. It was a bookstore that was in the mall. And so they had me come. It wasn't like I was doing a presentation or that they even had an audience. I was just going to snag people as they walked in the door. But this one lady came in and she said, I was in the bookstore earlier this week and I found your book and it changed my life. I had to come back and tell you. So I probably should have stopped writing right then. It's like, okay, mission accomplished.
No.
But I think I have touched hearts, and that is a goal, and it is a goal to remind everyone that life is so difficult, but that you can do it. You can do it, definitely. Yeah. One of the main storylines in High on Life is personal reinvention. And I think so this goes to the kids who we're talking about too. I think we reinvent ourselves so many times. When you graduate from high school, it's a reinvention. When you get married, it's a reinvention. When you get divorced, it's a reinvention. Empty nest, retirement, a college degree. And they're all hard, even the good reinventions. So you've got a college degree, great. What do you do with it? Now you've got to go make cold calls and try and get a job. So, often what you think is the end point is just the starting point for the next step. And so I encourage people to do two things. We've kind of talked about it already, but it's so important in my mind is to have a healthy routine. I'm a very routine person. Again, eat well, exercise, sleep hygiene, all those kinds of things. And then take one step a day in the direction of where you're going. So sometimes when you're reinventing yourself, it's after some kind of major heartache and you don't even want to get off the sofa. You just want to lie there with your blanket over your head. Just get up and make one phone call or send one email or whatever. And I encourage you to have an accountability log to write down today's date. And today I made a phone call too. And you'll be surprised after 7 days and 7 teeny tiny little steps that you're moving. You're moving. You can get up off the sofa. So anyway, yeah. So I'm here to encourage I'm here to encourage you. You can do it, Kevin and Rochelle, and all of the kids with Samuel. You can do it.
Well, and Rochelle, Lori's really inspiring, isn't she?
Yes, so much so. I'm like, you know what? When I grow up, I want to be able to, because Lorie, what is it like to, what it was like through all of these points and times of the journey of life. And now you get to look back at them and you still have time ahead of you. What do you want to do with that? Is there anything that motivates you down to your soul you still haven't done that you want to do?
Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting question. A friend of mine just had her 70th birthday, but her mother just had her 99th birthday. And so I said, if you have 30 years, and she's already retired from a fabulous career in education, you will really, we got to figure out something to do that's meaningful. So I love to write, so I'm going to continue writing my blog. I don't think I'm going to put out any more books because that's really hard work, and I don't want to work that hard. And I'm going to travel like all of us
Yes,
senior
do
citizens.
it. I can't wait to see where the journey takes you. And you have to promise that within that time, you come back and visit us to share along that time and see what more you've learned and created and keep us inspired. We really need Lories out here in the world. So I'm thankful that you spent this time with us to share your message.
Thank you. If anyone goes to my website, loriekleinereckert.com, there should be a pop-up to subscribe to my blog. And you will get a blog post from me twice a month, the second and the fourth Tuesday of the month. And it'll be on whatever. A recent one was how hard it is to be a woman getting dressed for a party. Because you have to impress everybody. And another one was the difficulty of having the family over and how the bundt cake didn't come out of the bundt pan, so it's a slice of life, hoping to entertain you and get you thinking a little bit. So I'd love to have new subscribers. That would be great.
And Lorie, have you ever heard the expression, be careful what you wish for?
Okay.
Well, you just gave the universe a hell of a challenge. You said, I'm not going to write any more books. Well, guess what? I got bad news for you. You're going to come up with a killer idea, and there's going to be a sixth book. I'll bet you money on it. So,
no. That sounds like a lot of...
We're betting now. It's serious.
I better go take a nap and rest up for this.
Yes.
Well, I do that all the time. But just, and you've used the term retire several times. And I have a natural problem with that term because I don't think anybody should retire. I think that what you should do is transition to something. If you have a job and now you can not have that job, transition into something that you love to do. And whether you make money at it or not, my father would not work after he retired at 60. He was Mr. McDonald, and then he was just Jack. When he became just Jack, he felt like, I'm not going to volunteer. I'm not going to do. You got to pay me if you're going to do. But it's not about, at that point, he had enough money. Well, I'm using some of his money, so he had enough money for long after his life. But rather than to say, I'm going to give back and I'm going to give other people the benefit of my expertise, he ended up sitting on the couch. And that just was a big crying shame. So do not transition into something you love to do. If it's making quilts, if it's writing about quilts, whatever it is, do that. If it's public speaking or teaching people how to sell a public speaker, Rochelle, you need to talk to Lorie anyway.
Oh, yeah.
And all of those things. So don't spend a day of your life not doing what you love and continuing to move forward, because at this, I talk to hospice people all the time, and they tell me that the one regret people have on their last day on this planet is that they didn't follow their heart, and they have regrets about their family situations and what they did. Don't leave this planet with regrets. That's my advice. What's yours, Lorie?
Yeah, well, on those regrets too, that's another reinvention. One step at a time. You can't control, if you have a bad relationship with someone, you can't control their reaction, but you can do something nice in their direction on a regular basis and see if it doesn't chip away at it. So yes, I'm definitely going to have do significant things. I'm going to write. And I encourage everyone, really follow your passion. So I love to write.
Yes, and as far as I'm concerned, if somebody is not being nice to me and stuff like that, they just might as well leave their underwear in the gutter like that guy did, because I'm not interested in having having them around. So because life is too short and we need to take care of have great people around us. Rochelle, what do you think? And we're nearing the end of our time. You get to take us out again, dear.
Yes, well, I agree with all the above. It's so challenging to be at this age and figuring it all out, and we have everybody doing different things, but to have the braveness to be yourself and know that alone is strong, and to also love people for their indifferences and learn from them rather than separating all of us. And that's what your life has been about, Lorie. You are so inspiring. I can't wait to have you back. Everybody go to her website, which is loriekleinereckert.com. She's got everything on there. I love that you do the blogs. I'll be signing up. So with all of that said, thank you, Kevin, for making all this possible. We've had an amazing day. And thank you, Lorie, for your time and writing these books. I'll share your word.
Thank you. It's been a delight. Thank you so much, Kevin and Rochelle.
Yes.
Lorie, thinking the same thing I am at this particular moment? Why can't I be 27 again?
No. Be thankful for what you have and love who you are. We'll love you for it if you can't yourself. So have a good day, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow.
We'll love you for it unless we don't. Anyway, Rochelle, thank you so much. And Lorie Kleiner Eckert, go to her website, which is of the same name, and sign up for her blog, and which used to be called a column. I still remember that. So, but thank you so much for being here. You're delightful. And you've created a legacy, and I hope your grandchildren will recognize that.
Yeah. It will live on whether you like it or not.
It's like I tell Rochelle, we've got over 1,370 episodes. I can't get rid of this show if I wanted to. So it's here forever. And so are you and your work. So thank you for being who you are. Okay, that's... Hold on. Thank you for being part of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where stories inspire and voices remind us of what truly matters. May today's conversation give you hope, courage, and a reason to keep moving forward. And just remember, till next time, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got.